The late 1980s bore witness to a chilling saga that transcended the typical boundaries of crime, delving into a realm where occult beliefs fused with brutal violence and the illicit drug trade. At the center of this horrifying confluence stood Adolfo Constanzo, a figure whose name would become synonymous with terror and depravity throughout Mexico and beyond. Constanzo, known ominously as El Padrino, or the Godfather, orchestrated a series of ritualistic murders and presided over a sophisticated drug trafficking operation, cementing his place as one of history's most notorious cult leaders. His cult was not merely a collection of fringe fanatics. It drew in a diverse array of individuals, including those from affluent and influential circles who sought power, protection, and impunity through Constanzo's dark ministrations. The crimes primarily unfolded in the late 1980s, culminating in a major, gruesome discovery in 1989 that ripped the veil off his clandestine empire. The geographical epicenters of his operations were Mexico City, the bustling capital, and Matamoros, a city strategically located near the U.S. border, a critical hub for drug routes. Constanzo's motivations were rooted in a twisted belief system. He convinced his followers, and more importantly his cartel clients, that his elaborate rituals, which disturbingly included human sacrifices and the practice of black magic, would bestow upon them spiritual protection and an almost mythical invincibility. This promise of supernatural shielding from law enforcement and rival gangs became the cornerstone of his power and the catalyst for unspeakable acts. Born in Miami, Florida, to a Cuban-American mother, Constanzo's early life was steeped in a world far removed from conventional spirituality. From a tender age, he was exposed to Afro-Caribbean spiritual practices, particularly Santeria and Palo Mayombe, which would later form the perverted foundation of his cult. He possessed an innate charisma, a magnetic quality that allowed him to effortlessly draw people into his orbit, a crucial trait for any aspiring cult leader. This charm, coupled with a growing understanding of occult practices, enabled him to begin performing what he termed spiritual cleansings and fortune-telling. Initially, these services were offered for modest fees, but as his reputation grew, so did the financial demands and the caliber of his clientele. He quickly attracted wealthy and influential individuals, many of whom were entangled in illicit activities and desperate for any advantage that could secure their power, safeguard their fortunes, and protect them from their enemies. Constanzo masterfully exploited their fears and superstitions, crafting a narrative of invincibility through his rituals. He established a rigid hierarchy within his burgeoning cult, demanding absolute and unquestioning loyalty from his adherents, who saw him as an omnipotent spiritual guide. Central to Constanzo's macabre rituals was the nganga, a large, ominous black cauldron. This vessel was no ordinary object. It was a horrifying receptacle filled with human remains, animal parts, and an array of other grotesque items. Constanzo propagated the belief that the nganga was imbued with powerful spirits, capable of offering protection to his followers and unleashing curses upon their adversaries. The rituals surrounding the nganga were graphic and brutal, involving animal sacrifices, blood offerings, and the consumption of certain parts, all designed to amplify the nganga's perceived power. The cult's connection to drug trafficking was not coincidental. It was a symbiotic relationship. Constanzo actively sought out and offered his spiritual services to drug traffickers, charging exorbitant fees for his supposed protection. He promised them invulnerability from law enforcement and rival gangs, assuring them that his magic would render them untouchable. His cult became deeply embedded in the drug trade, providing a chilling layer of spiritual security for illicit shipments and operations. This nexus of crime and cult belief created an unprecedented level of terror. Before we continue, subscribe to the channel, and tell us in the comments where you are watching from. The escalating demands for power and protection eventually pushed Constanzo's rituals into an even darker, more barbaric realm: human sacrifice. These extreme acts became an integral part of his increasingly deranged practices. Victims were often rival drug dealers, individuals perceived as threats to the cult's operations, or simply chosen as sacrifices to appease the malevolent spirits Constanzo claimed to control. The chilling rationale behind these sacrifices was the belief that human life, particularly its essence, could significantly amplify the Nganga's power, making the cult and its clients even more formidable. This belief justified unspeakable acts of violence, transforming Constanzo's cult from a group practicing dark magic into a full-fledged murder syndicate. Within this sinister organization, several key figures played crucial roles, enabling Constanzo's reign of terror. Foremost among them was Sara Aldrete, a charismatic figure who became Constanzo's priestess and second-in-command. Aldrete, a former college student, possessed a deceptive intelligence and an ability to project an air of normalcy that made her an invaluable asset to the cult. She facilitated Constanzo's operations, often acting as a recruiter and an enforcer, her presence lending an air of credibility to the cult's bizarre claims. Her involvement underscored the insidious nature of Constanzo's influence, capable of corrupting individuals from seemingly ordinary backgrounds. Another significant accomplice was Martín Quintana Rodriguez, a key member deeply involved in the abductions and murders that defined the cult's activities. Quintana Rodriguez was one of the many high-ranking members who assisted Constanzo in orchestrating the cult's operations and carrying out its gruesome rituals. These individuals, drawn into Constanzo's web of promises and fear, became instruments of his will, participating in acts that defied human comprehension. Their loyalty, often born out of a mixture of genuine belief, fear, and the allure of power, cemented Constanzo's control over his criminal empire. The cult's internal structure was meticulously designed to ensure Constanzo's absolute authority. He fostered an environment where fear was as potent a motivator as spiritual promise. Disloyalty was met with severe, often fatal consequences, reinforcing the members' obedience. This control extended beyond the cult's inner circle, reaching into the powerful drug cartels that sought Constanzo's services. The traffickers, desperate for an edge in their brutal trade, willingly paid vast sums and provided resources, believing Constanzo's rituals offered them an almost supernatural advantage. This symbiotic relationship solidified the cult's financial foundation and expanded its reach, making it a formidable force in the criminal underworld. The Nganga, constantly requiring new offerings, became a central, gruesome focal point of the cult's existence. Its contents, a macabre collection of human and animal parts, were regularly replenished through acts of extreme violence. Constanzo meticulously presided over these rituals, often involving the dismemberment of victims, their body parts ritualistically placed within the cauldron. These acts were not random. They were carefully orchestrated performances designed to instill fear, reinforce belief, and demonstrate Constanzo's perceived dominion over life and death. The chilling spectacle of these rituals, witnessed by cult members, further bound them to Constanzo, making them complicit in his atrocities. The escalation from animal sacrifice to human sacrifice marked a critical turning point, transforming the cult into an organization of unparalleled barbarity. The cult's operations, initially rooted in fortune-telling and spiritual cleansing, had fully devolved into a horrifying machinery of death, fueled by superstition, greed, and a twisted pursuit of power. The stage was set for a discovery that would shock the world. The culmination of Constanzo's dark empire manifested most horrifyingly at Rancho Santa Elena. A seemingly innocuous property, that served as the primary location for the cult's most heinous crimes. This isolated ranch became a veritable execution ground where numerous victims endured torture, murder, and dismemberment, their remains often incorporated into the infamous nganga. The Black Cauldron, central to their rituals, presided over these atrocities, constantly being fed new human parts to amplify its supposed power. The ranch, once a quiet rural retreat, was transformed into a landscape of terror, a silent witness to unimaginable suffering. The cult's reign of terror reached a critical juncture in March 1989 with the abduction of Mark Kilroy, an American college student enjoying spring break in Matamoros. Kilroy's sudden disappearance garnered significant international attention, placing immense pressure on Mexican authorities to locate him. Unbeknownst to the outside world, Kilroy had become one of Constanzo's human sacrifices, his brain and spinal cord grotesquely removed and utilized in the cult's rituals, believed to imbue the nganga with heightened spiritual potency. His absence ignited a chain of events that would ultimately expose Constanzo's depravity. The investigation, initially focused on drug trafficking, eventually led police to Rancho Santa Elena. What they discovered there sent shockwaves across Mexico and the international community. A mass grave on the property yielded the remains of 15 mutilated bodies, a horrifying testament to the cult's barbarism. The sight of the nganga, overflowing with human bones, animal parts, and other macabre objects, provided undeniable evidence of extensive ritualistic killings. The grim revelation unveiled the true extent of Constanzo's satanic practices, exposing a cult deeply intertwined with drug cartels and human sacrifice. Following the horrific discoveries at the ranch, an intensive manhunt was launched for Adolfo Constanzo, Sara Aldrete, Martin Quintana Rodriguez, and other key cult members. The fugitives, attempting to evade capture, eventually sought refuge in a Mexico City apartment. The pursuit culminated in a dramatic standoff with law enforcement. Cornered and facing imminent capture, Constanzo, in a final act of twisted control, ordered Martin Quintana Rodriguez to kill him and another follower, Omar Orea Ochoa. Quintana Rodriguez complied, shooting Constanzo and Ochoa, thus bringing an end to the cult leader's life and his reign of terror. In the aftermath of the shootout, Sara Aldrete and other surviving cult members were apprehended. The ensuing legal proceedings brought a semblance of justice for the victims and their families. Aldrete, despite her attempts to portray herself as an unwilling participant, was convicted alongside other members for their involvement in the murders, abductions, and drug trafficking operations. They received lengthy prison sentences, signaling a definitive end to their criminal enterprise. The case underscored the extreme lengths to which some drug cartels and their affiliates would go to secure perceived spiritual protection and power. The enduring legacy of Adolfo Constanzo and the narco-Satanists remains a chilling example of the intersection between organized crime, cultic devotion, and black magic. The Matamoros cult case continues to fascinate and horrify, serving as a frequent subject for true crime documentaries, books, and articles. It stands as a stark, cautionary tale, illustrating the profound dangers inherent in extreme cults, the seductive allure of unchecked power, and the devastating consequences when superstition and greed intertwine, leaving a trail of unimaginable human suffering in their wake. The memory of Mark Kilroy and the other victims serves as a permanent reminder of the cult's brutal reality.